Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. This week we're going to be back on the Tiger. After rewiring the upper hull last time, we've got a couple of bits that get in the way, the main one being the speaker. It gets in the way of the new wiring and it never sounded all that great to start with. To replace it, I've got this little guy. It's cheap and all the way from China. It's small enough it should just about fit down beside the smoker at the back of the hull. Of course, a speaker by itself won't work very well, so we need an enclosure. It's just a sealed box. I've not bothered adding a port as the audio quality from the RX-18 isn't all that great and it'll only let water in. The box is made from some 2mm styrene, and since we'll need two of these little 4 ohm speakers to make up the 8 ohms of the stock speaker, we're going to need to make another. The set of bits is easy to cut out with a steel ruler and a knife, just the usual score and snap. Here's my extremely rough drawing. It changed a little bit when I built the first one, but you get the idea. The important bits are the base width, so it will squeeze into the gap beside the smoker, and the overall height, as it gets rather close to the turret rotation gearbox in the upper hull. Measure twice, cut once, and sand until it fits, or something like that. Anyway, assembly is straightforward. Using the good old Plasti-Weld, it doesn't take long at all. The side bits get attached to the base using a square to get them nicely lined up with the sides. While they've still got a little bit of give, the back plate goes in, starting at the bottom and then up the sides, pulling the sides into place. Leave it for 15 minutes to harden up, then use a square to cut the top off the side in line with the back panel. They just need scoring and snapping. A quick sand to take off any high spots, and the top strip can go on. A bit more Plasti-Weld to make sure there's no gaps, and the basic box is done. The front panel with the hole for the speaker should fit inside the front. Currently it's a bit oversized, so you'll need to give it a quick sand and get it all just right. But when it does fit, we can fit the speaker and wire it up. The parts are so cheap it's not really worth spending the time doing anything fancy. Running some hot glue around the edge will do the job just fine. You just have to be extremely careful not to get any inside the speaker frame. Next we need to wire it up. As mentioned earlier, the stock speaker is 8 ohms, so we need to match that with our two 4 ohm speakers. To do that we need to connect them up in series. 4 ohms plus 4 ohms gives us 8 ohms. There's not too much to worry about with the soldering, the usual tricks apply. The only thing is to remember not to overheat the speaker terminals, you can cause damage, but you shouldn't be holding the iron on the joints for that long anyway. Any wire-to-wire joints need some insulation, a little bit of heat shrink does the job. Now the speakers are wired, we can stick the front panel onto the box. Again, you could devise some sort of removable panel, but it's also cheap, it would be easier just to buy another couple of speakers. Last bit of soldering now, we need to remove the lead from the stock speaker and splice it into ours. Red to red, black to black. We'll need to make sure it's nicely insulated too. If we did get a short, the little amplifier in the RX-18 really won't like trying to drive the short circuit. A 0 ohm load. It'd probably let the magic smoke out. Right, before we stick them in, we should probably do a quick test and make sure they actually work. They plug in just like the stock speaker. The RX-18 won't know the difference. Need a battery and a radio. Okay, here we go then. Well, it's alive. They do seem to have a bit more bass than the stock speaker. The sound is quite a bit fuller, but you won't be getting the benefit of that as you're listening through the camera's microphone. But it's definitely better than stock. To fit the speakers to the hull, we're just going to use a bit of servo tape to stick them to the electronics tray. A good strip on each of the bases and they can be installed. They're a very tight fit, so I might have to do a little bit of fettling off camera, but they look pretty tidy already. Okay, one more thing. The receiver's still in the way, so we need to move that too. I reckon it's going to fit under the PPM to Heng longboard if we just mount it up a bit higher. It's only held in with a single screw, where the stock 27 MHz receiver used to live. If we shuffle around a bit, move the RX-18 forward, there's just enough room for the Turnigy receiver, with enough space so we can still access the servo connectors. We already know the setup works a treat, so we can just use some servo tape to mount it. The other board was mounted with a short self-tapper, so we need to find a screw of similar size but longer. Luckily, I never throw anything away and found this one. It's a machine screw, but it'll do just fine. As a spacer, I've dug out some 5mm nylon spacers. 3 of them plus the boss moulded into the electronics tray will give us just enough clearance. And there we go. Just need to plug everything back in and stick the antenna somewhere. I think we could still do with tidying up the smoker power cable, and that red switch is still looking a bit iffy. We might tidy them up at the same time we finish up the lower to upper hull connections. Either way, it's coming along quite nicely. It's nearly ready to run again. It's only been, well, 4 or 5 months. Oh well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like if you liked, and if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. It's always greatly appreciated. Bye guys.